Profit.
Hello and welcome to Heads Up on NDTV Profit. As always, we kickstart your business day right here on this particular show. This morning, what are the global signals that are coming in and also the top stories that we're going to track? Here are the headlines. Strong U.S. manufacturing data vaulted U.S. stocks to three-year highs. Earnings boost also continues from corporates. Brent oil prices rose above the $102 a barrel mark as disruptions at Egyptian ports and Jordan's government shakeup kept concerns about potential oil supply interruptions. And Egypt's President Mubarak says he will quit, but after September polls, while protesters say he must go now. Most of the Asian markets are closed today because the Chinese lunar year has started. So you have the Chinese markets, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnamese, all of these markets being closed for today's trade. But the Nikkei, the Japanese Nikkei, is trading and it's up almost 2% right now, 1.8% in the positive territory, 10,459. The Thai index, though a much smaller market, it's trading marginally in the negative territory. What has happened across the other markets? When you take a check of U.S. stocks, you will see that U.S. indices have actually closed at their highest level since 2008, and they look poised for even more gains, and that's on the back of a surge in U.S. manufacturing activity. The Dow Jones has closed above the psychologically important 12,000 mark for the first time since June 2008. Dow Jones has closed up 1.25%. The S&P 500 index closed above 1,300 for the first time since August 2008. That's closed up 1.67%. And the Nasdaq Composite Index has added 1.8% to itself, closing at 2,751. Earnings boost it's coming in from companies like Pfizer. Shares of Pfizer rose 5.5% in yesterday's trade on Wall Street after income and revenue, both of them topped analysts' expectations. Pfizer's also announced a $5 billion buyback. Now, UPS, the other biggie on Wall Street, rose 4.5% as well after profits at the world's largest package deliverer beat estimates, and it also forecast record high earnings in 2011. But it's not just earnings activity, you also have manufacturing, which seems clearly to be an area of strength, signaling improvement in economic growth. The U.S. Manufacturing sector has expanded at its fastest pace in nearly 7 years in January. And that's according to the Institute of Supply Management. The index's employment component rose to its highest level since 1973. ISM factory index jumps to 60.8 in January versus 58.5 in December. On the phone line now, we have a special guest joining us from Indiana, Mr. Charles B. Carlson, CEO and Portfolio Manager with Horizon Investment Services. Mr. Carlson, thanks very much for joining in and speaking to NDTV Profit this morning. Wall Street is at almost three-year highs, levels not seen since 2008. Would you say risk is coming back into the markets?
Oh, well, I think it has. We've obviously come a pretty far way here pretty quickly when you look at how this market has gone up over 90%.
Mr. Carlson, fears about Egypt's turmoil that it could spread elsewhere, that has lessened a bit now. But the IEA has said that OPEC should remain flexible in the event that unrest affects supply. Do you think that's likely to be a possibility?
I think it is. It is interesting just how this market has shaken off. Significant turmoil, not just in Egypt, but brewing in the Middle East.
Also, it's not just corporate earnings. You have manufacturing activity coming in, the boost coming in from there. And there's a lot of optimism just ahead of Friday's all-important payrolls data. How's that likely to turn out?
I think it'll continue a favorable trend. It's probably not going to be at a pace that a lot of people would like to see. I mean, the employment picture is still reasonably slow going.
Mr. Carlson, thanks so much for joining in and giving us your views on NDTV Profit. Appreciate the time as always. Well, these are the global cues which are coming in this morning, and they are rather strong. What does this mean for Indian markets? Markets which saw a massive free fall in yesterday's trade. We're going to analyze the cues for the Wall Street and, of course, an eye on earnings counters that will be reporting their results today. All of that after this short break. Ashu Sharma is here, like as every morning, to help us analyze the cues for the Lal Street. Ashu, very good morning. Wall Street has been rallying overnight. So what sort of cues are we looking at for the Lal Street today after the free fall we saw yesterday?
Morning, Bianca. Well, if you look at the last few trading sessions, going by what's happening on Wall Street, which has been continuously making new highs, however, the recovery could largely come in purely driven by the global factors.
Okay, so those are the levels to watch out for, and also the stocks that Ashu mentioned. We're going to keep an eye on that. Besides these counters, also a couple of other counters, they're going to be in focus today because they will be reporting their results today. There's Jet Airways, there's Hero Honda, Bharti Airtel, and a couple of others. Pankaj now joins us to run us through the market expectations from Jet Airways and Hero Honda and their third quarter performance. Good morning, Pankaj.
Good morning, Bianca. Let's first start with Hero Honda. Firstly, in the last quarter gone by, they have done a record sales of 1.4 million bike.
All right, we're going to watch out for these two counters and also talk to the management once the numbers are announced. Bharti Airtel also reports its third quarter results in a short while from now. They always generally tend to report numbers just a little before markets open around 8:30 or so. The numbers will be out and we'll track those, but Shefali now joins us to run us through what the market is expecting from Bharti's third quarter numbers. Good morning, Shefali. Are we likely to see significant contribution from the African business or any other headwinds that is likely to perhaps have had dented their third quarter performance?
Morning, Bianca. As far as the African operations are concerned, the revenue is expected to grow by about 4.5% quarter on quarter. Overall sales for Bharti Airtel, Bianca.
Of course, we're going to watch out for the numbers and see whether or not Bharti actually tops these estimates of the markets. But right now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about what is happening in Egypt and whether or not the concerns are easing. That is what is happening in Egypt after 8 straight days of protest. But what is the latest? Well, Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has assured the protesting people of Egypt that he will not stand for re-election in September. Speaking to state television, Hosni Mubarak promised constitutional reform, but he said that he wanted to stay until the end of his current presidential term. The crisis is not over yet, but the severity of it seems to be contained as of now. Moving on to some more business news right now, Reliance Industries has questioned US shale gas partner Atlas Energy on why it was not given a fair chance to buy out the company over Chevron. Now, Chevron had announced that it would spend $4.3 billion to acquire Atlas Energy in November last year. This after RIL and Atlas Energy had agreed to a joint venture to develop the Atlas's Marcellus shale gas assets. Rajkumar Sahu joins us with more details. Raj, the shareholders meeting to approve Atlas Chevron deal is scheduled for later in this month. Could Reliance's objections have any impact on the outcome?
Well, we all know that RIL has a checkered history with Chevron, because remember that how Chevron exited Reliance Petroleum earlier 2 years back in a very bad note. Actually, really not happy with Atlas going to Chevron.
Thanks, Raj, for the details. We'll watch out for how this story develops. Moving on now, we've seen a couple of public sector banks raising rates. Now, HDFC has hiked home loan rates by about anywhere between 25 to 50 basis points in response to the 25 basis point hike in key policy rates by the RBI a week back. Deepika Thapliyal joins us with the details on the rate hikes announced by various banks so far. Deepika, good morning. If you've taken a loan, you're sure to mourn, right?
Well, it's inevitable, and it's happened now finally that loan rates are on their way up, and HDFC is the latest lender to have bite the bullet.